So, in this very session, we shall be looking at factorizing algebraic expression. But remember, we are still on algebraic expression. Now, factorizing algebraic expression simply means that finding the factors of a given expression. In other words, breaking down expression into its factors. So let's take it that you have the number 5. And then we have to factorize 5. This means we have to find the factors of 5. So the factors of 5 are 1 and then 5. So 1 times what? 5. Also, when you have, let's say, 15, and then we have to factorize. This means that we have to break this 15 into its factors. So the factors, you can talk of 1 times 15. You can also talk of 3 times what? 5. Let's say 3x. And then we have to factorize 3x. This means we have to find the factors of 3x. So the factors of 3x, we have 3 times what? X. Similarly, when you have, let's say, 5x y squared, and then we have to factorize. It means we have to find what? The factors of 5x y squared. So the factors are, we have 5 times x times y times y. So these are the factors of 5x y squared. Now, what if you have the expression, let's say, p squared plus, let's say, pq, and then we have to factorize. So what we are going to do is that we are going to find the factors of the individual terms, and then we find the factor that is common to this very term, and then we bring it out, and then we keep the rest inside the bracket. Is that clear? Good. So we are going to find the factors of p squared. So the factors of p squared, we have p times p, because p times p will give us what? P squared. And then the factors of pq. So the factors of pq, we have p times q, because p times q will give us what? pq. Then after that, we find the factor that is common to each of these very terms. So we can see that p is common, p is also common to this very term. So after finding the common factor, we bring it out. So the common factor, we bring it out, and then we write the rest of the factors in a bracket. So we have brackets. So after bringing this p out, we are left with all p in this very term. So we have p, then we have plus. Now when we go to the pq, after bringing this p out, we are left with what? Q. So we write it here. And that is that. Let's take another example. Let's take it that you have s squared y minus, let's say, y squared z, and then we have to factorize. So what we are going to do is that we are going to find the factors of the individual terms. Then we find a factor that is common to these very terms, and then we bring it out, and then write the rest in a bracket. So let's find the factors of s squared y. So the factors are x times what? X times what? Y. Because this times that will give us what? S squared y. Then we look out for the factors of y squared z. So the factors of y squared z, we have y times what? Z. Then after that, we look for a factor that is common to these very terms. So we can see y and then y. So y is common to these very terms, right? So we can factorize our y out, and then the rest we keep them inside the brackets. So looking at this, after writing this very y out, we are left with what? X times s, and that gives us s squared. So we have x squared, then we have our minus. Then move on to this very term. So after bringing this y out, we are left with what? Y times z. And that gives us what? Y z. I guess you are following. Let's take another example. Let's take it that you have w cubed y. Then we have plus, let's say, sy squared. Then we have minus, let's say, w. Okay, let's make it y x w. We have to what? Factorize. We have to factorize. So what we are going to do is that we are going to find the factors of the individual terms. Then you find a factor that is common to all of these terms. So we have w cubed y. The factors of w cubed y, we have w times w times w times y. And then the factors of x, y squared, we have x times y times y. And then the factors of x, y, w, we have x, y, w, we have x times y times w. Good. Then after that, we find a factor that is common to all of these terms. So we have y is common, y is common, y is common. Do we have any additional factor that is common? W, no, x, no. So we have our common factor, that is y. We bring it outside the bracket and then write the rest of the factors inside the bracket. So after bringing this y out, we are left with what? W times w times w for this very term. And that gives us w cubed. Then we have my plus. Then move on to the second term, which is this. So after bringing this y out, we are left with what? X times what? Y. And that gives us xy. Now, with the last term, which is this very part, after bringing this y out, we are left with what? So we have minus. We are left with what? X times w, and that gives us x w. We are done. Very, very easy and then simple. Try your hands on this. So let's take it that you have w squared s squared z minus w x y squared plus, let's say, s cubed z s cubed z. So we have to factorize. We have to factorize. So try your hands on this, okay? So we have w squared x squared z. The factors, we have w times x times x, then what? Times z. And then with wxy squared, we have w times x times y times y. And then the last term, we have s cubed z. We have x times x times x times z. So the common factor is we have x, we have x here, we have x here, and then we have x here. So the common factor is x. We don't have any additional common factor again. Do we have? We don't have. So we have our x as our common factor. Now, do we have any additional? So we have x as our common factor. Then after that, we write the rest in the given bracket. So after bringing this x out, we are left with w times x times z. So that's going to give us w squared x z, right? And then after bringing this x out in the second term, we are left with wy squared. So we have minus wy squared. And then the last term, after bringing this x out, we are left with what? S squared z. So we have plus S squared z. I guess you were able to have this very answer. But let's make more progress. Now let's take it that the expression involves numbers. The expression involves numbers. Now, when the expression involves numbers, what we are going to do is that we are going to pick the numbers and then we find the highest common factor for these two numbers. Then we write it down. Then after that, we move on to the letters. So let's see how it goes. So we are going to pick 2. So we have 2. We find the factors of 2. So we have 1 and 2. Then we move on to this well 2. The same 1 and 2. Then after that, we find the highest common factor. So within these two factors, the highest one is what? 2. So we write it as, we bring it as 2. We write it down. So after finding the highest common factor for the two numbers, we move on to the letters. So let's take it down. Let's move it in this very way. So let's find the factors of 2a squared. So we have 2a squared is the same as what? 2 times what? A times a. These are the factors of 2a squared. Now let's find the factors of 2a cubed. So the factors of 2a cubed, we have 2 times a times a times a. So after that, we find the factors that are common to these very terms. So we have 2. 2 has already been written down. So we have 2. 2. We also have a, and then we have a, and then a. So the common factors, we have a, and then 2. So we are going to get a times a will give us what? A squared. So we have a squared. Good. So after bringing 2 times a out, we are left with what? 1, right? 1 is a factor of every number. So we have 1. And then move on to the next term. So we have plus. So after bringing 2 times a out, we are left with what? A. So we have plus a. And then we are done. Very, very easy and then simple. I guess you are following. Let's take another example. Let's take it that you have 3x plus 15. 3x plus 15. So you realize that this expression involves numbers. So what we are going to do is that we are going to find the highest common factor for the numbers. We are going to start with the numbers. So we have 3 and then 5. We find the highest common factor. You know that the highest common factor is 3. If you don't know, let's go through. So we have 3. The factors of 3, we have 1 times 3. And then 15, we have 1, 3, and then 5. Let's write it in this way. So the highest common factor, HCF, we have what? 3. So this is the highest common factor. So we write it down. Then after that, we find the factors of 3x. So the factors of 3x, we have what? 3 times what? X. Then move on to 15, the factors of 15. So with that one, we are going to take the factors that involves what? 3, which is the highest. We are going to pick that. So we are going to pick 3 times what? 5, because 3 times 5 will give us what? 15. So after finding the factors of these two terms, we find the factor that is common to these very terms. So we can see 3 and then 3. Already we are putting the 3 down. That is the number that is common to these very terms. So we bring it out and then we write the rest inside the brackets. So after writing the 3, we are left with what? X. So we have X and then plus. We move on to 15. So after writing 3, we are left with what? 5. So we have factorized this very expression. Very, very easy and then simple. Let's take another example. So we have our next example. We have to factorize this expression, algebraic expression. So as I intimated earlier on, when the algebraic expression involves numbers, we are going to pick the numbers and then we find the highest common factor for the numbers. So with 2 and 6, the highest common factor is what? 2. Some of you have forgotten. If you have forgotten, let's go through. So we are going to take 2 and then we find the factors of 2. That is 1 and 2. Then we take 6. We find the factors of 6. We have 1, 2, 3, and then what? 6. Then after that, we find the HCF, highest common factor. So the highest common factor, we have 2 and then 2. So that is the highest common factor. Good. So after finding the highest common factor, you write it down. Then after that, you move on to the individual terms. So we have 2m squared. We find the factors of 2m squared, and that is what? 2 times m times what? M. Then after that, we move on to the second term, 6mk. So we have 6mk. So with 6mk, we are going to take the factor that involves 2. So we are going to take 2 times 3, that gives us what? 6. And then we have times what? mk. We can have 1 times, with this we can have 6mk, which is what? 1 times 6 times what? M times what? K. This is also factors of 6mk. But since the highest common factor for these two numbers is 2, we are going to pick the one that involves 2. I guess you are following. Good. So after that, we look for the factors that are common to these very terms. So we can see that 2 is common, 2 is common. We have m is also common, m is common here, m is common here. So these are the common factors for these very terms. So we bring them outside the bracket. So we have 2m. Then you write the rest inside the bracket. So with the first expression, which is this, after bringing 2m out, we are left with what? Only m. So you write it down. Then we have minus. So with the second expression, after bringing 2m out, we are left with 3 times k, and that gives us what? 3k. Then we are done. Very, very simple and easy. Anytime we factorize, after expanding, we should get the original expression back. So after expanding this, we should get this. 2m times m will give us 2m squared. Then we have minus. Then we have 2m times 3k will give us what? 6mk. 2 times 2 will give us 6. And then we have mk. So anytime we factorize, after reversing by expanding, we should get the original expression back. Let's take more examples. Okay, let me add 1 to it and let's see. Okay. So let's take these 2 few examples and then we run out of here. So with the first one, we have 5ax minus 15a cubed s cubed. So realize that with this algebraic expression, we have what? Numbers. So we have to tackle the numbers by finding the highest common factor for the numbers. So we have we find the factors of 5. We have 1 and then 5. And then the factors of 15, we have what? 1, 3, and then 5, and then 15. So our HCF is what? 5. The common factor, the highest common factor is what? 5. So we write it down. Then after that, we find the factors of 5ax. So the factors of 5ax, we have 5 times a times x. And then move on to the factors of 15a cubed s cubed. So we are going to get 5 times 3, and then we have times a times a times a, and then x cubed, we have times x times x times x. Good. Then after that, we find the highest common factor, okay, or we find the factor that is common to this very term. So we have 5 is common, a is common, x is also common. So we have x here. Good. So we are going to bring 5ax out. So we have 5ax, 5ax. So we bring them out. So after bringing 5ax out, we are having what? 1. Because 1 is a factor of every number or every variable. Then after that, we bring our minus sign. Then after bringing 5ax, we are left with what? 3 times a times a times x times x. So we have 3a squared x squared. So we have 3a squared x squared. And then we are done. So after expanding, we should get our original algebraic expression back. 5a squared times 1 will give us what? 5a squared. We have minus. 5 times 3 will give us 15, right? A times a squared will give us a cubed. X times x squared will give us what? A squared. We have our original expression back. Now try your hands on this very few. The last example, I'm going to give you some tutorial set questions. You pause the video, you write them down. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. Can you like, share, and then subscribe to this very channel for more interesting updates. See you next week. Bye bye.